Good evening, workshoppers. It's been another 2 weeks. We got another episode here. We've got a new patch. We got some new things to talk about. D2 remasters, Diablo Immortal. What's next? What's coming? And unfortunately, it's one of those ones where we just kind of have to hurry up and wait. And so the name of the game right now. The recording of this episode here on June 24th, the new patch for 2.6.9 just came out yesterday, and it's caused a little bit of conversations in the community. A lot of people, of course, were happy with kind of like how the changes that they went and made to the Demon Hunter set, and some of the buffs that they had done, like corpse explosion and such. They've made a lot of things more viable. They've given people some more options. But people are also surprised that it didn't really have any other changes between the PTR and now, because one of the big problems that people were still citing is that the Necromancer set, while interesting, it doesn't really fulfill that big of a role for Necromancers, especially when you couple it with some of the changes that were made to either the survivability of the Inarius set, or the huge damage bonus that they added to Corpse Explosion. And so that the Necromancer set, the new one, is actually kind of somewhat like the Wizard set of last season. It's coming in at like the middle of the pack. It might be like one of the best sets for, say, like farming bounties, but that is a very, very niche use, as you will spend less time farming bounties than you will do almost any other aspect of the game. Whether it be just like straight up farming keys with Torment 16 Rifts, which is something like the God build, the Gears of the Dreadlands for the Demon Hunters, is insanely efficient at. But the Necromancer set is kind of found in this weird place where it doesn't really fill too much of a role. The one change that they did make was to the Petrified Spike, which was the scythe that increased the essence costs of Bone Spear and then added like up to 700% weapon damage, where it was an additive bonus that's now being changed into a multiplicative bonus. And I've not seen too many people like really getting in there and testing it out. It should end up being a relatively noticeable DPS increase, but we'll see how that still kind of compares to a lot of the other things. And a lot of people have gone through and they've been pushing some excuse me, some interesting Necromancer builds that have been using mages, the skeletal mages, with the archers. Now that you can actually get the singularity bonus through the shoulder slot, and so it's those Razketh's shoulders now are a survivability increase, which is something that Necromancers have just needed in general, as well as a little bit of a damage boost, because now you can get singularity mages on either like archers or the containment mages, then combine that with just like your Legacy of Dreams set, or when you're early in the season, pushing with kind of an Inarius build, that it is giving you some pretty little interesting combos that you can use, or at least at the for when you're going through and pushing, where you might have a dead skill, you might not be using Land of the Dead in some of those builds that are going through, with kind of like the Melee Mancer, the Grim Scythe build. You don't really need Land of the Dead. You don't really have an efficient essence spender to drop your essence down to get the survivability bonus of the shoulder guards, and so you just kind of I'll just singularity archers, and it gives me some attack speed, so I can fight just a little bit faster, and it's just an essence dump and some added bonus damage. So there's definitely some interesting interplay that's been going on there with that patch. In addition to, of course, just the people are kind of digging the God builds. It's just so funny. I'm what was it? I think it was Bloodshed had on stream the other day, where he was asking people, should we change it from like S tier to God tier? But then we have a new God set, and it's just some interesting little things there, because when you refer to the God build, are you referring to an actual like above S tier build, like the best build in the game, such as the the Spirit Barrage build or the Valor Crusader, or are you just referring to that one mediocre Demon Hunter set? Don't know. It's it's at least pretty interesting. They've also added in some like last minute changes to how the season bonus works. So now the actual damage of the season bonus, that every 90 seconds it will tick through and do some like elemental damage and some elemental effects around you. The damage of it scales to the number of enemies that you've killed, which puts more of the onus on the player to get more out of it by having killed more in between those little windows. And so it's something that it's kind of a good, it's like a good track. It's a refinement of the season 19 set, or not set bonus, but seasonal bonus. And I see a lot more positive comments that are going through and on it. Some people are still a little bit hesitant because it is a close analogy of the season 19 set bonus that threw off a lot of the higher end players that didn't really like the changes that it made to the gameplay. But this one at least puts more of it in the player's hands. You're now the driving force of this the seasonal bonus, instead of just being like, oh, let me group up, a whole bunch of enemies on screen, and then I can just barely make it through and kill a couple, which those like 5 kills would spawn, like the zombies or what have you, and then kind of like chain into like the 10 kills and the 15 and then the 20 and the 50, and then everyone's subsequently getting bigger, and then you only had to kill 5 enemies, and then now all of a sudden you're at 150 or 200 kills to create a new streak to then move on, go and pick up the next pack and start it all over again. This one you have to do the killing before it is strong enough to do more killing. And we'll see how it actually plays out. No one actually got the chance to go through and test how this mechanic works on the PTR, so it'll be a surprise coming next week with the new season, hitting July 3rd. So that was another one that was kind of up in the air. Would Blizzard push a new season on a holiday weekend? Because it's something that they're usually it's something that comes down to they want to push these seasons and patches when they have people that are on hand in order to address any issues that might come out or stability concerns. But it looks like they're going to go through and push it. It's much better than say the outcome of having it this weekend, which would have been the 26th, and then we only had the 5-day turnaround before we went and had the new season start, which would have put a lot of pressure on people. But of course, kind of tying in with the episode title, now we kind of have 2 weeks to sit around and wait for the new season. I've been seeing a lot of people going through, and it's like, well, let me try out these builds, all this combined Paragon that I've had after 20 seasons, and how high can I push, outside of season than I could in season. It's been pretty cool, but it's something that, at least myself, I kind of, for so long, just ignored my non-seasonal characters. And so going to try and test out some things yesterday with the new patch, I found myself lacking, as I have very little support gear, because I normally have let all of my seasonal bonus or all of my seasonal gear, and you're going to hate me for this, I usually let those emails just expire and all that gear just go away. Everything that I collected in the season just gone. Everything that I would collect on the character that I rebirth, gone. I know I'm terrible, I'm a monster, and I shouldn't do it. I've learned my lesson because I've just been craving something, anything new to go and fill in the time between waiting for season 21. And that unfortunately is kind of like, well, I can play with the builds that I had been playing with on season, because those went through and copied over, but unfortunately, it's like trying to go and test out some like Torment 16 like speed pushing builds and stuff like that don't work quite as well when I had been building the characters around, and having their cubes and such where I could go and just put in 3 weapons for like the Necromancer and such. And so I played around with it a little bit, did some 16 riffs and stuff, nothing too major, and now it's just kind of like waiting and keep focused on season 21, seeing just how cool that's going to be. I'm going to enjoy the new Necromancer leveling experience. It's always tempting when the Hadrig's Gift is Shadows for the Demon Hunter, because that is one of my favorite sets next to Marauders, and is just such an out the gate powerful set that will get you started, no matter what it is that you want to do. It's really good for that early power level. That 2-piece set bonus will allow you to just like ramp it up into the next level just from the get-go. And once you have the full 6-piece set bonus, you're immediately just climbing up the torment levels. It's so easy to get the complementary weapon, the Carly's Point, just because you only have those 2 options to try and cube, so it gives you kind of like that head start right from the beginning. But one of the big Necromancer leveling builds is to get the Grasp of the Essence, the gloves that buff Corpse Explosion damage. And now that Corpse Explosion itself base has had its damage buffed with the double buff from the Grasp of the Essence, that's going to make the Necromancer leveling like insane. And then combine that with Inarius, which is just, you can make most any build work with Inarius, especially the Necromancer, the Corpse Explosion one, where it explodes corpses around you, just so that way you can always make sure that you keep the enemies within that damage bonus area. It's going to be I think it's going to be a pretty powerful start, and so I will be going through with the Necro. I really want to try out this new set. And I don't want to grind out for it in between, just the next week and a half here, just to then go through and have to grind it out again in the season for it to matter. I might do some practice leveling runs here or there. We'll see how that goes. Try seeing what just it might look like to roll out a Grasp of the Essence, and how just insane that's going to be in the early leveling experience. I will definitely enjoy that one. But yeah, other than that, it's like we've got some other stuff that we've all been kind of waiting with a bated breath for in the Diablo community. Namely, a lot of these rumors regarding a Diablo 2 remaster. A couple of weeks ago, we started having some of the first time some credible rumors come out that a D2 remaster might be in the works. This is something that's been long rumored. I think it was all the way since 2016, or it might have been earlier than that, when some job postings were placed for the Blizzard Classic Games division, that they were looking for people with some experience in the Diablo realm of things. And it's just been kind of one of those ongoing rumors that just never goes away. And though we've really heard nothing for it, we've had that big Kotaku article, we've had other people going through, but there was that French gaming website we talked about on a previous episode that said that they have some credible rumors that Visceral Games is going through and Vicarious Visions is going through and working on a D2 remaster. And then yesterday, in addition to having that new patch, we had a website that went through and published a new article claiming that D2 Resurrected is going to be announced on June 29th to coincide with the 20th anniversary for Diablo 2. They said that coming up on June 29th, the 20th anniversary, that as part of the Summer Games Fest over on IGN, that Blizzard will announce the Diablo 2 Resurrected. And they just are going through and then saying that if you go over to the website, you'll see that the Blizzard logo's over there, that they're part of the publishers that are participating in IGN's event. And this is one of those ones where it's this website, IndieKings.com, that are going and talking about this supposed announcement on June 29th, were the ones that they successfully got the rumors or the leaks for Overwatch and Diablo 4. So Overwatch 2 and Diablo 4. And it wasn't one of those ones where it's they're going to announce Diablo 4, which is something that even I had been saying, for a while there, that this is the year that they're going to announce Diablo 4. It was specifically they're going to have PvP from the beginning, Lilith is the new Diablo, and a lot of things that were just that you can't just kind of open air guess. Anybody can guess, oh yeah, they'll announce Diablo 4 tomorrow, and oh yeah, it's going to be a open world ARPG, type thing. Because that's just how would they make the next big evolution in ARPG genre. But specifically some of those call outs of the importance of PvP and the importance of Lilith to the main plot was okay, someone knows something type thing. And so that added a little bit of credibility to this website when they go through and said that next week that they're going to be announcing the D2 Resurrected. But there were a couple of problems with this, is because the last schedule that IGN has for events is the 25th, tomorrow, at Thursday, for the Summer of Games. They have a couple other little things planned, going into like July or August, but the actual events that they have for the Summer of Gaming end before the supposed rumor is supposed to take place. And then finally, with the good old Westmarch Wednesday luck, we have at least a little bit of confirmation here. So Pez Radar, who is the community manager for the Diablo franchise, wanted to go through and address these rumors directly. Hey all, we don't usually comment on rumors, but before this hype train goes off the rails, we wanted to clarify that there are no upcoming Diablo announcements in June. The Minions of Hell are hard at work getting ready for the start of the next Diablo 3 season, bringing you the next Diablo 4 quarterly update very soon, and we have some fun activities planned around the upcoming 20th anniversary of Diablo 2. Now this is one of those ones where it's very rare that Blizzard actually ever goes through and gets involved and comments on rumors regarding things. But I guess they're starting to learn their lesson when it comes to the Diablo community, that if you let the Diablo community run wild with their own rumors and speculation, that they'll hold Blizzard accountable for it, and no one else. It's not my job to rein in my expectations. It's your job to rein in my expectations. I'm going to expect that Diablo 4 is coming out next month if you don't tell me otherwise. And so it's good that we at least have in a bit more of an open line of communication with the development team, and that they're willing to go through and address some of these more wild rumors and speculation, especially around something that would mean so much to the Diablo community, given how much Diablo 2 is kind of like held on a pedestal. It's held in such high regards by the community as like this is like the epitome of what it means to be an ARPG game. Whether it ends up being your favorite or not, I absolutely love and adore Diablo 2, but it definitely is a game that has showed its age over time, and it's that even just goes into the whole thing of there was a recent interview with Max Schaefer and Matt Ullman from the Torchlight team, and they spent some time, in addition to talking about Torchlight 3, of course, talking about Diablo 2, which the Schaefer brothers were part of the original lead designers for the games that helped create this whole series that we all love and hold dearly. And they just addressed some of the things that would you be tempted when you're going through and making a remaster to, like, say, censor parts of the game. And it was Miak Whipple, Bashiok, of when he was back in his Blizzard days, went through and shared a photo on Twitter of some of the concept art of Bale's minions, and I have to say it's one of those ones that I never had seen before. But that little tiny thing, like, in between their legs, which I always kind of assumed was a tail, and the concept art is actually a penis, and it was just like, oh, yeah, okay. I see what you mean as far as maybe wanting to go through, and when you make those graphics HD and modern, are you going to keep that as a penis? It is a mature game. You could probably get away with it, but it definitely is one of those ones. It's like, are you going to want to censor some parts of it? And it's also just spawned off dozens of other conversations across Reddit, Twitter, and other things like that. Do you get rid of the stamina bar? Like, even David Brevik has said that if he could change one thing about Diablo 2, it'd be get rid of the stamina bar. And so would you do that? Like, what type of quality of life changes would you do? And at what point is it more of a remake than a remaster? And is it still going to be D2, and are you going to fully capture that entire experience if you start changing some core gameplay mechanics? And just like I was saying before, with the community's expectations and within such high regards that this game is held, is there anything that you could do, with going through and releasing the game, besides just doing a bit more of like what they did with the StarCraft 2, remaster, or not the StarCraft 2 remaster, the StarCraft remaster, where you really just make the graphics a little bit better and then leave the same core engine as it is. You know, very little updates, like no real tweaks or anything like that to the system, and just leave it as it is. Because otherwise, people are always going to find some sort of fault in it. You take that penis off of Bale's minions that no one ever knew existed, but as soon as someone goes through and points that out, they'll be frothing angry on Twitter, being censorship. So it's just it's one of those things. I don't think that there's any way that you could go through and remake Diablo 2 with making everybody happy. It's very ambitious. But I'm sure no matter how it's done, it would probably do well, just with how much people love that game and want to experience it again for the first time. But it's always, no matter what you do, it's going to have some critics. If you only update the graphics, polish it up like a little bit, like what they did with StarCraft Remastered, you'll have people saying you should have done more. You remove that stamina bar and people will be like, you shouldn't have done that. That was part of the game, And then, in that same IGN interview that Max Schaefer and Matt Ullman went and were talking about, there was other things. It was just, it's like, it wasn't a 3D game. It was a 2D game of kind of like 3D rendered sprites. And so trying to go through and put that into like a modern engine instead of like the custom engine that was created from the ground up for that game, it's not going to have the quirkiness, or the it's not going to have you're going to spend a lot of time like replicating like the weird movement interactions about how it does pathing, or going around like certain bumps in the level into the terrain and such like that, because it was a true like 2D game created to look 3D. And so that has certain quirks of the engine that you'll never be able to replicate fully in a modern game engine. And it's something that there's just things that you'll never really be able to recreate. You'll have to kind of like what is it? I remember some of the things that they were talking about in World of Warcraft Classic, where they specifically had to develop bugs to put into the game because they were quirks of the engine as it existed back in patch 1.12. That they could no longer replicate. That they should say that they couldn't replicate naturally, and so they actually had to code in like specific bugs in the game with, like, I think it was like attack speed sequences and certain interactions between buffs. Just because these were very famously documented cases that were issues with the engine at the time, that in order to make it kind of that same experience of what it was like to play on patch 1.12, it had to be in the game. If it wasn't that, it really wouldn't be classic. And so it makes me wonder if it's something that they do, how much time and effort would be taken to try and replicate some of that quirkiness with how you went through and moved. I remember in one of the David Brevik interviews, he was talking about all of the terrain that your character could like stand in were like just little square grids that existed on the screen, and each one of those square grids was then divided into 9 more squares, but you couldn't really pick which square it was that you moved into when your character moved over there. So that would kind of add like a randomness of you're kind of clicking between the same exact points on the screen, but your character moves a little bit further or a little bit less every time that you click on those 2 exact points, because it will kind of like randomly generate the actual area that you click to. So you can just click on that one big piece where you're going to go, but then the engine will pick the actual specific point that you go to almost at random every time that you go there. And that can cause some weird interactions, because all of the game sprites, whether it be like a little rock or a signpost or something like that, they're all made to exist within those 9 little squares. And so it might pick a point that a artifact or something in the engine exists in that point, and then your character will kind of like, we've all had like the little character like bug out on the screen like a little bit, while the engine tries to figure out how to put you there before then kicking you out to some other place. And something that every time that I go through and pick it up or talk about the Diablo 2 remaster, I have to mention the Halls of Vot. Are the invisible auto-killing poison clouds a part of the experience that should be replicated, or is it something that should be fixed? Anyone that's played hardcore in D2 knows to dread the Halls of Vot, and it's also one of those ones where it's like, even not playing hardcore, playing regularly, no one ever goes through and farms Neolithok because of that particular type of mechanic. Even going and teleporting through, it's something that can kind of like insta-gib you if you're not paying close attention, when the Viper Magi spawn on that level. It's just like little interesting quirks of the engine that were never able, even now, if the last patch, patch 1.14b from 2016, still I don't even know if it's fixable, or they just don't care at this point, because I mean, honestly, it's the Halls of Vot. No one goes there unless you're specifically farming to get a Hellfire Torch. And it's so many questions about what it is that you do. And no matter what, no matter how you answer all of those questions, the path that you take is going to piss off some people. I do wonder, depending upon what decisions are made, is it going to be overall, worthwhile? Are you going to, alienate a vast majority of the player base because they just have such high expectations of the game? Is it better to just, make another update so that way the last update for the game was basically just make it playable on modern OSs? Do something along those lines, up the graphics like just a little bit, and then just leave it be. Who knows? But it does. The Pez Radar's response does kind of pique my interest a little bit, as they said activities. And so is there something else that's planned for this D2 anniversary? Because next week, Diablo 2 will be celebrating its 20th anniversary. It's going to be 20 years old, and damn, that makes me feel old. And it's just, for the 20th anniversary of Diablo 1, we got the Darkening of Tristram, and the D3 development team now is extremely smaller, even compared to how small the D3 team was back when the Darkening of Tristram was introduced. But I'm not sure if they have the manpower in order to keep these new sets and these new seasons being churned out alongside bug fixes and other things along that side, and develop something the size like the Darkening of Tristram. Is it going to be maybe like a web-based celebration? Are they going to do any type of streaming event? Are they going to do maybe an open QA or something like that in order to celebrate? I'm interested. I'm definitely interested in seeing what it is. We don't have too much longer to wait. We only have to wait till Monday in order to go through and get that. And it'll also, sometime around then, I'm also expecting the D4 development update. As he mentions, in that we will have the quarterly update very soon, which, when the last that Blizzard kind of publicly acknowledged it would be towards the end of June. I wouldn't be surprised to have it, come out on Monday or Tuesday of next week. Though if it is update, like that very soon, could we potentially have it by Friday? What's going to be in this update? What are they going to go through and talk about? Are they going to start getting into like some of the more nitty-gritty itemization questions? Is the game far along? Is the game far enough along in development to actually be able to answer some of those questions? Or are we going to see a little bit more of like that iterative process on, these are some changes that we went through and made to the UI based on feedback that we got on the last development update, or the things that we got from BlizzCon, and then here's a little bit more of a better rendition of the angelic ancestor or demonic power for the itemization system. Or could they come out of left field and talk a little bit more about like these key dungeons, these affixes for the key dungeons that they have in plan? Could they start talking about PvP? Because even though they talked about PvP in the announcement, how it's going to be kind of like built from the ground up, we really haven't heard how they're going to do PvP, in the game. Is it going to be like open world zones? Will you be able to flag anywhere, anyone, anytime? Will there be a deathmatch? Will there be things that I can queue into from the cities or the social hubs? We don't know what structure that PvP is going to take. I for one would be interested in seeing that in a developer update sometime soon. And then also, finally, we're still waiting on some more information on Diablo Immortal. Though they like to go through and keep that on the down low. But we are kind of in that mid-year area. I want to say that if it's mid-year, the widest time frame that you could say for mid-year would be the 4 months of May, June, July, and August. That's the middle third of the year. So that's about as big of a mid-year that you could make it. And so we're getting into the middle of the mid-year, and the chances are that we probably won't really be seeing anything on that side. I would guess probably till the end of July or August. But in having some conversations, I've been doing a lore series for Diablo Immortal with Echo. From Echo Gaming. You can check him out on YouTube. He actually has a channel fully dedicated to Diablo Immortal, and we've been doing some lore videos every Monday that he's been hosting up over there. So please go through, check it out. He also has he's got a lot of interesting content around Immortal, because he's his main job is streaming mobile games on like his YouTube platform and D Live and such. And so he has a unique perspective that no one really in the Diablo community has, because he is in the thick of it when it comes to the mobile community. And some of the things that he's talked about is that like Supercell, who does like Clash of Clans, Brawl Stars and such, when they do regional testing, it's like in like Canada and like Finland and some other places, and so it has like these limited narrow places that you can actually download the game and go through and test out just for them to collect data and such. And it's something that's a little bit similar, he was saying, with Brawl Stars to Immortal, that I kind of like took a note of, is that Brawl Stars was like in beta for 2 years before it got released worldwide, and so people were playing it in Canada for like a full 2 years before it got let loose to the rest of the world, and has now become like one of the top performing mobile games of all time. It's in like the top 10 videos on like YouTube Gaming as far as the games that people search for and such. And it's kind of cool to see someone that kind of covers like these types of mobile topics and such, and from that perspective, as an outsider never playing like a Diablo game before, he got his hands on Diablo Immortal and was like, this is the real deal. Like this, he plays like every mobile game that's out there. He's tried them all, and he says nothing has compared to that demo that he played of Immortal. And that is one of the funnest experiences and one of the best mobile games he has ever played, bar none. And so that has me kind of like been getting really hyped over the last couple of weeks about Immortal. And I know a lot of the people that listen to the show, you get tired of me going through and talking about Immortal, so I'll kind of go through and wrap it up there. But I do hope that you give it a chance. I do wait to see how they will handle the regional testing, if they'll be doing regional testing in the US, and who they go through to select to do it. And I can't wait to see how far the game has come along, depending upon what the NDA nature of that regional test ends up being. Because I can't wait to go through and see more people get their hands on it and actually try it out. Because if almost anyone that you will have talked to that was at BlizzCon 2018 or 2019 that got to play the game, even those that hated it, after they played it, their opinions changed, because the game is good. The game is really good, and can't wait to see it in a more refined form. And also just getting excited for the lore and the story that's to go through and come of it. Been doing some research on like the Diablo timeline and such, and it's some of the things, the dates of when some events occur and such as like the comic The Sword of Justice and the Order, and how that kind of all takes place and kind of shifts around with regards to Immortal. The Order is a little bit more firmly placed due to Aaliyah's age, something that is like a known quantity. and so that one, will still take place like a couple of years after the Order, but we don't really know when the Sword of Justice takes place, and the Sword of Justice makes it seem as if it takes place, shortly before D3. But then, some of the comments in the Storm of Light make it seem as if it took place, shortly after D2. And so that kind of will play around where is this some things that we'll find out in Immortal, will we meet Jacob, while he's still wielding Eldruin, and it's kind of like the avatar of justice on Sanctuary in Tyrael's absence. Who knows? But with that, it does kind of bring me to the end of the episode here. I thank you all for going through and joining me here if you watch the episode live tonight. I am going to upload this episode, to YouTube and the podcasting platforms a little bit earlier. I've been noticing that, kind of like staggering it where we do the live show on a Wednesday and then I upload it on a Wednesday hasn't been working out too well. And I want to give a little bit more, to the people that are going through and listening through the podcasting platforms. So I'll have this one up in a much more timely manner, as well as future episodes we'll be going through and keeping them a little bit more up to date, so that way they have a little bit more. Not as much like editing or cropping of things that I have to go and address, with the episode, or having those little after show notes and such, because I'm updating it like after like certain events or news has happened. But yeah, again, thanks for going through, stopping by, or listening to me rant here. But by all means, go ahead. You can follow the show, by going through, checking it out at the WM Workshop on Twitter, or you can follow me at Neinball Gamer on Twitter. Of course, I stream here live every other Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific at twitch.tv/BlizzPro. By all means, go ahead, send me any feedback or questions that you might have at westmarchworkshop@blizzpro.com. It's some pretty interesting times here for Diablo fans. Not only do we have the new season, we're going to shortly have a lot of things to talk about, when that developer update comes out, or whenever we get into that regional testing for Immortal. So there's going to be a lot going on, and depending upon how things go, might have to start putting out some more content. Who knows? But until then, thanks again for going through, checking out the show, and I'll catch you all next time. Well, here we are again with another post-episode update. As I'm going through and getting the podcast ready to get uploaded, and we have the Diablo 4 quarterly developers blog update. And this was kind of big. It was pretty in-depth at a recent playtest that the developers went through and had. I'm still going through and digesting all of it, and I think that I'm actually going to be doing a episode this upcoming Wednesday. So instead of the 2-week break in between the episodes, we'll actually, kind of go back to a little bit of a weekly format here. But I look forward to going through and talking about it soon, and just wanted to keep you all up to date. Thanks for tuning in.